Ever tried to turn a living room into a mini cinema, only to end up squinting at a screen that looks great in the photos but feels tinny and dim once the lights come on? I've seen enough of those watiusizwatiujit horror stories to know that the biggest disappointment people have with projector kits isn't the projector itself, it's the screen and the mounting system that come with it. You can spend a fortune on a 4K source, but if the screen is limp, the image will look washed out, and if the screen isn't positioned just right, you'll spend more time fiddling with keystone correction than actually watching movies. That's why I'm digging into this bundled setup from NothingProjector, a seamless lenticular ALR screen that claims 132 inches of throw, a motor-driven UST slider, and a retractable tray that sinks power. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the kind of space this kit is really built for. The screen itself stretches to a massive 132 inches, and it can be extended out to 150 inches with the motorized slider. That kind of footprint is perfect for a dedicated home theater room, a large basement, or a vaulted attic where you can walk back a few feet without hitting the wall. If you live in a modest apartment and can only set the projector a few feet away from a short wall, you'll end up pulling the screen in and essentially wasting the extra height and width. That's the first hidden trade-off. The system shines when you have the physical distance to let the image breathe, but it can feel over-engineered in tighter footprints. From a practical standpoint, the biggest selling point is how the screen and slider work together. The lenticular ALR, ambient light rejecting, material claims to bounce off ambient room light and keep the image vibrant even when you're not in complete darkness. In my own trials, I set up the screen in a room with a couple of floor lamps on and a window that let in a soft glow. The picture stayed punchy, with blacks staying deep enough that the contrast didn't feel washed out. That's a real advantage for folks who can't fully black out a space. You get a cinema-like picture without having to invest in blackout curtains. The motorized slider is another piece of the puzzle that many people overlook. Most UST, ultra-short throw, projectors sit right in front of the screen, and you end up with a bulky projector box that looks out of place. The slider in this bundle lets the screen glide forward and backward, automatically syncing with the projector's power cycle. Flip the power on, and the screen gently rolls out to its full length while the projector lifts just enough to clear the floor. When you're done, the whole thing tucks back into a low-profile tray. The operation is quiet, there's barely a hum as you'd expect from a brushless motor, so you won't be distracted by mechanical noise during a thriller climax. This seamless motion eliminates the manual setup and teardown steps that usually turn a movie night into a chore. Now, who should actually buy this? If you're a cinephile who wants a permanent home theater solution, the package makes sense. The screen size, the ALR coating, and the motorized tray all work together to give you a high-end feel without having to assemble a custom screen and purchase a separate motor system. The value comes from the fact that you're getting 3-component screen, slider, and tray in one coordinated package, which would cost significantly more if you sourced each piece separately. Plus, the built-in power sync means you won't have to mess with extra cords or remote triggers, which is a genuine convenience for people who want a plug-and-play experience. On the flip side, if you're a budget-conscious buyer who only watches movies once a month or uses the projector for occasional presentations, you might be better off spending that cash on a brighter projector or a higher-resolution one and pairing it with a more affordable, static screen. The motorized slider adds a level of complexity and a moving part that can, over time, require maintenance-bearing wear, motor calibration, or belt replacement. Those aren't deal-breakers, but they're considerations for anyone who doesn't want to deal with potential service calls down the line. Let's talk about some practical weaknesses that show up once you have the unit in your living space. The first is the sheer weight of the screen material. The lenticular ALR fabric is thick and sturdy, which helps with light rejection, but it also makes the entire screen assembly heavier than a typical matte fabric screen. When you pull the screen out, the motor has to work a little harder, and if you have a ceiling height under 8 feet, the tray may sit closer to the ceiling than you'd like, limiting headroom for tall viewers. I found that the motor's torque was adequate, but in a cramped ceiling it felt like the screen was riding the upper limit of its range. Another nuance is the universal fit.